Hi there. We're going to be starting a series of reviews of books about the armed police, specifically the UK armed police or the British armed police. There's several books on this subject, and I think it's interesting to look at them because it covers the history of armed policing in the UK right up to current times with some of the operations that have been done as well. So we're going to start with a very significant book which came out several years ago, and it's this one, Police Tactics in Armed Operations by Superintendent Colin Greenwood. I'll just give you the date of it. It was 1979, copyrighted. Now, Colin Greenwood was in charge of firearms training in West Yorkshire Police, and he took a leave of absence and put together this book over a period of time where he really put all the tactics that he'd developed and had been taught and had been absorbed by various police training entities in the UK to give armed officers a coherent training and a coherent tactical approach to the problem, which maximized safety to the general public and to the officers themselves. So it's very much involved in things like the use of cover and so on, and the use of protective equipment. And when the book was written, really body armor wasn't widely available. Soft concealable Kevlar certainly wasn't being used by the UK police, and most of the overt armor was pretty unsatisfactory. But they had shields and they had some other little devices. For example, that they developed a ballistic clipboard that a traffic officer could use, and so on. The book is very well explained. There's lots of diagrams for how to do all the different tactical things, vehicle stops, vehicle checkpoints, searches, besieged criminals and things like this. And Colin Greenwood was responsible for ARVs. He was the guy who came up with the concept, and West Yorkshire was the first to deploy armed response vehicles, which were permanently armed vehicles who were deployed in a particular area on a continuous basis. And different procedures evolved over the years. Initially, they carried the weapons locked within the vehicle and could only arm when ordered to. And in some other areas, they didn't have that requirement. They were carrying the weapons on them. I was on a protection job in Leeds, which was high threat, and we were liaising with the police, and we actually had an ARV assigned to us, and that was the first I'd ever seen of one, and that was before the Met had them, definitely. Anyway, when he developed the ARVs, Colin Greenwood went on television and bluntly said, if you come to West Yorkshire to commit armed robberies, we will kill you. And understandably, armed robberies went down in the area for quite a long time. After he left the police, Colin Greenwood became very much involved in the civilian side of firearms training, was a big advocate for the legal ownership of handguns by civilians. And he became the editor of Guns Review, which spoke out on this subject. One of the things that he talks about in the book, which interested me, was VIP protection. And he makes an important point. I'll quote, the need which sometimes exists for restricting information linked with the totally inaccurate bodyguard myth often creates a situation where, of scores of police employed in supervising the visit of some public figure, only a very small number of plainclothes police officers are involved in protection, and they keep themselves apart, preserving a totally false mystique about their role. The remainder of the police are left in ignorance of the protection plans, if there are any plans, and of the role they might play. Very, very important point. And at the time that he wrote that, that was quite a common thing, that the officers who were on protection did have this mystique, and they didn't really coordinate and come up with a comprehensive plan in the event of an attack. So hopefully that changed over the years. It's still a very interesting book. Obviously, the threat has increased exponentially since 1979. The tactics have changed, and the equipment. This was all revolver based, and with some shotgun work as well. And the photographs in this book, if you compare them with the counter-terrorist police now, it's a completely chalk and cheese situation. But this was a milestone, and I'm sure it formed the backbone of many a syllabus for police training back then.